I tested the best acrylic marker hacks I could find. One failed, one was surprisingly fun, and one you simply must try. Seriously. I'm back with another round of craft hacks, and today's focus is on acrylic markers. I've scoured the internet to find the best acrylic marker hacks, and now I need to know, are they actually worth trying for creatives like me who don't like mess but still want to make some beautiful things? Today, I'll be working with my brand new 90B acrylic markers by Artex. They are my new creative besties, and I can't wait to show you just how versatile these markers are. Now's the perfect time to get your very own set of these markers because they're now on sale. Use code GWEN0114 to get 15% off. Shop the link below between the 14th and 18th of January. They don't need any shaking or pumping. They're ready to go right out of the box, so I can jump right on into these hacks. I'll be testing each hack and showing you exactly how it works, and I'll give each one a star rating so you know which ones are total game changers. Plus, I've also created cards so that you can see the hacks in action. There's one hack that really surprised me, and I can't wait to share that one with you. It gives these markers a whole new purpose, and I think you're gonna love it. Starting with hack number 1, I'm calling this the marble effect. All you need to get started is a bowl of water, and then you'll want to choose colours from your markers that are quite dark. I've cut to size some white paper scraps, and you do want to be sure that the paper fits inside your bowl. So if you'd like to make a larger card, just be sure to choose a bowl that is quite wide and shallow. Now, to get the marble effect, all you need to do is take the marker tip and swirl it across the surface of the water. You want lots of movement here because that movement is what creates these swirl shapes. You will need to work quite quickly here, so as soon as you're happy with the ink swirls that you have on the water surface, grab your cardstock and gently layer it on top. Then push it directly down to the bottom of the bowl and lift out. Be sure not to drag the cardstock across the water surface. I did try that and the effect doesn't really work. The paper I'm using is just regular cardstock, certainly nothing special and not watercolour paper, so I do have a tea towel handy. As soon as I lift the paper out of the water, I am patting it dry with that, and that really helped reduce any paper warping. Just look how well this one turned out. This was actually that dark green marker. It did seem to me that you lose a lot of the depth of the colour in this process. The colour gets diluted with the water, so do be sure to choose really dark colours. This one worked way better than I was expecting and was a lot of fun actually. I'm surprised. I love how every background is a little bit different, and this is nothing like any other technique I've tried before. I'm giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. Now this next hack, it's going to completely change the way you think about acrylic markers. Turns out they're a 2-for-1. Hack number 2 is to use your acrylic markers like watercolours. For this next hack, you will need a jar of water and a paint palette. This one is one of my favourites actually. It is ceramic and really lovely to work with. It just feels so much more fancy than one of those plastic ones. I'm also starting with the markers that are the primary colours so that I can show you just how easy it is to mix them together to create new shades. This particular set of markers has 90 colours in it, so I can't imagine a colour that you couldn't create using this technique. There are 2 ways to work here. This way is my favourite. You just draw on your palette to release the ink and then add the water from your jar. What you can also do is add your water first especially with a palette like this that has those little wells there, and then add your ink to that plain water. Once you've turned your acrylic paint marker into watercolors, then you can use all of the beautiful watercoloring techniques you like. At this point, I was really just testing things out and having a creative play, and I found that they blended really, really well. This is not even watercolor paper. This is the same basic cardstock I used for the first hack, so I can imagine it would work even better if you used proper watercolor paper. I want to use a stamped image for my card, so I am going to stamp it in this pigment ink. This will actually be waterproof, so I'll easily be able to colour over the top without it smudging. You could also stamp and then heat emboss with a clear embossing powder. I've done that and that looks really nice too. I do want to be very precise here, so I am working with a small watercolour brush, and just like any other watercolour, I'm controlling just how strong the colour depth is based on how much water I'm using. I like to work with one colour at a time because you will need some drying time in between sections. Just like watercolours, the colours will bleed together if they are both wet. Sometimes you want that look, you want that blendability, but other times you want the colours to stay very separate. In that case, you do need to wait for them to dry. You can also layer your colours. So if you create the flowers, say in pink like this, and you find the colour a little too muted, you can wait for it to dry and then add on another layer. You actually have a lot of control over the depth of colour and where that colour goes with this technique, which is why I love it so much. I want these smaller flowers to really pop, so I'm not going to watercolour them. I am going to use the marker directly on the paper for those. The paper I'm using for this technique is actually alcohol marker paper. I wanted something very smooth to work with, and I knew that I wasn't going to be adding an awful lot of water, so it would still work really well. I'm not sure just how well you can see this on camera, but in person, there is a really big difference between the two techniques in the flowers. The pink ones are soft and delicate and definitely have a watercolor feel to them, and then the yellow ones really do pop. Their texture is far more like paint because, of course, it's the acrylic paint coming right out of the marker. I also wanted to try a stamp that was far more detailed, and this one I have stamped and then heat embossed, so I have those edges to help me stay inside the lines. I'm working with a very small brush and I'm just going to enjoy colouring this image in. Pretty does that look? And just you wait till you see this one on a card. Back to my first stamped images, I wanted to make sure that this was very, very dry before I moved on to some more marker work. I wanted to show you how you can fill in your stamped images really, really loosely just with marker strokes. This is not a precise technique and actually has a bit of an artsy vibe to it. The idea is to fill the white space but stay clear of the stamped image because these pens will go over the top of that. I found this looks best if you keep things really nice and loose and free. You don't want perfection here. This is another 5 out of 5 star technique. I loved this one. Mixing the colours was super easy and the watercolour effect is gorgeous. You can combine this technique with regular marker work as well, which is surprisingly fun. The card I made with this technique might actually be my favourite, and I'll share it later on in the video. The next hack was the one I was most nervous to try. If it works, it will give me a new way to use my stencils. There was a lot of trial and error here, trust me. let me show you what I figured out. I have a couple of stencils I'd love to try this technique on. This first one is more detailed. It's a floral print. And then the second one there is a starburst one. I chose it because it's very linear and simple. I feel like this technique will show off the super flexible nibs of the markers. They're really good for both outlining and colouring, and we're going to do both of those things in this technique. Here's a look at the first result, and it is nothing like I expected. There's an awful lot of bleed through the stencil, so the design is really not clear. The markers themselves performed lovely, and I love the colour saturation and that side of things. It's just that the design of the mask itself is really, really messy. I'm hoping this hack will work a lot better on a more linear design, and I am taking a lot more care here to place a lot of pressure downwards so that I've got a seal between the paper and the stencil. I'm also being a lot more cautious about outlining the shape first and then filling it in with the marker ink. So let's hope that helps. As I was working, I noticed too that the stencil did end up sticking to the paper. There obviously was a little bit of bleed through, but that looks a lot better, doesn't it? Now, one of the things acrylic markers do really, really well is colour black cardstock. So I thought, let's try another geometric design, a simple stencil, but this time on a dark cardstock background. To try a two-tone colour combination here, and I love how that turned out. There was one thing I was a little bit worried about when trying this hack, and that was my stencils. You see, these markers, they work really well on all kinds of surfaces. Glass, stone, wood, plastic, including the plastic of my stencils. Some of you might not mind having dirty stencils, but I do, and I was worried about getting the marker off them. Don't worry, I was able to clean my stencils off easily with this. I couldn't wait to turn this one into a card base, so I've trimmed to size and added stitching around all of the edges. I've also added in little enamel dots in between each of the circles for a really nice texture. I've stamped and heat embossed this floral image, and I'm going to use that lovely artsy loose colouring technique I just shared to colour this one in. I've chosen some of the super vibrant colours from the pack to go with this darker shade of cardstock. I really love the colour mix actually, because you get a rainbow of colours and then you get lots of different shades. So some of them are really super vibrant, but there's quite a few softer pastel tones as well. A big thank you to Artex for sending me these markers and their support of the channel. They have been amazing to work with, and if you'd like to grab a set of these markers for yourself, be sure to check the description box below. The final look of this embellishment. It's so pretty, and I can see myself using these on my scrapbook layouts as well as my cards. Hack number 3 gets 3 out of 5 stars. I really liked this one when it worked, especially on the black cardstock. That look is so striking and so different. Just wait till you see the card I made. But it didn't work very well on the more detailed stencils, and it took a really, really long time. So that for me is a fail. Knowing myself, I'm far more likely to just grab an ink pad and blending brush over my acrylic markers when I'm using my stencils. especially if I was on a time crunch. If you're loving these hacks and are looking for even more inspiration, come join me on Patreon. It's where I share bonus content, project tutorials, and step-by-step project sheets you won't find anywhere else. More details are in the description box below. I'll see you there. On to hack number 4, and I have a confession. This hack was missing from my recent video, Embossing Folder Hacks. I know. I'll link that video in the description box below so you can watch it next. Don't go there yet though. First, let me show you this next hack, which I'm calling embossing highlights. I've gone ahead and grabbed some plain white cardstock and then run the embossing folder through my machine as I normally would. Next, take any ink you like. I actually prefer the Distress Oxide ink, but any ink will work. And what you want to do is very gently highlight the raised areas on your piece of cardstock. What you're doing is drawing out that embossed design. Once it's dry, it's now time for your acrylic markers. I've had a couple of goes at this, and I think the best results are achieved when you focus on the very small details of your embossing folder. I'm adding the acrylic paint to the small raised areas, the very centers of the flowers. It's a very small detail, but it's really lovely. Now, are you wondering why I chose to do such a small detail? Let me show you. This is the exact same embossing folder, and I'm going to work in a much larger area for this one so that I can show you the results. First up, I have to say this took the longest time. I was going so slowly because I really wanted to achieve a really neat result. I do quite like the first one, but there's so little marker there, I feel like it doesn't even count. This hack gets 1 out of 5 stars. It is the worst hack of the entire video. I tried this so many times and I could not get it neat enough for me to actually like it. Maybe I just need more practice. I'm not sure. If it is obvious to you what I have been doing wrong, please let me know in the comments and I will try this one again. Remember, I try these hacks so you don't have to. And for me, this one was a big fail. But don't worry, I have saved the best hack till last. This one is called Embossed Vellum Colouring. You'll need a floral embossing folder for this hack, as well as a strip of vellum that is slightly wider than the embossing folder itself. Position it inside the folder so that it's highlighting one of the most interesting parts of the design. The vellum is the part in the design that will be coloured. Layer on top a piece of plain white cardstock that's been cut to fit and run this through your embossing machine. It's now time to colour in the vellum, and I'm going with 2 of the prettiest pastel shades for this. Just be sure that you're colouring the correct side here. So what you want to do is have a look at your card with the vellum placed on top of the cardstock as if you were looking at the card's finished product. You then want to flip the vellum over. We're actually colouring on the back side. I'm actually colouring in the valley part of the embossing folder, which makes it really easy because you've got this lovely outline that you can stay within. I'm also keeping things really simple here. I don't want to colour in the entire piece of vellum. I just want to highlight little details within the design. So essentially, the main leaves and of course the flowers. You don't have to be too precise with this either. And in fact, it can actually look better with a more loose colouring style. Once you've finished colouring, you can layer this piece on top of your other cardstock piece and you'll find that they nestle together really nicely. You can wrap the excess vellum around to the back and that will secure it in place. Just wait till you see this finished card. This hack gets 5 out of 5 stars. I've tried it with alcohol markers as well, and I think acrylic markers makes it even better. This one is a must try for sure. If you only try one technique, it's this one. Now comes the fun part. It's now time to see all of these hacks in action. Let me show you all of the cards I've made. Starting with the 2 cards I created using the marble effect. So I have this as a background piece on the card, and then I've layered in some floral elements. These ones were the ones I actually coloured in the watercolouring section. So I've added those on and a sentiment and then a few little sparkles. And then for this one, I leaned into that darker tone of purple and was really going for a contrasting look. This is one of the stamped images again. This is the one that I used the marker directly onto the stamp, here and here, and then the leaves are that watercolor. I really love the contrasting colors in this one. I love how bright and happy it is. Here's an example of the watercoloring technique. This entire floral piece here has been watercolored and you can see the layers. So first up I did a very pale pink, then waited for that to dry and then added an extra layer with a slightly deeper purple tone. The leaves too have been watercolored as well as the flowers. Once dry, I did add in some extra marker work just to make that yellow pop. I've added a brad from my stash and then another die cut sentiment and a few little sparkle touches to finish. Here's the completed card from the stenciling technique. You'll recall I used 2 tones of pink to colour the stencil, and then I've added these enamel dots for texture into the background. I directly used the markers on the paper to colour my stamped images and then just added this die cut sentiment. I've pulled it together with stitching around the edge and I love all of these shades of pink and purple. This one's a really striking card to me. I really like how it turned out. Here's the card from the highlighted embossing folder technique. Yes, it is very, very subtle, but this is the only way I could get this technique to work. I do like it though. I think it's pretty. It's a really sweet little detail to add. I've just layered up some die cut florals, added my sentiment, and then of course a little extra sparkle. And lucky last, this is the colouring vellum technique. So I went with half of the card almost with the vellum that's been coloured and then left this remaining portion open. I've added lots of stitching here, but then kept the other embellishments really simple. One more quick look through the cards. I do love how each of these turned out. They're all so different. These acrylic marker hacks were so fun and have really changed the way I see this supply. So many creative possibilities. Let me know in the comments which one of these you're going to try first, or if there's an amazing hack I missed that you think I should try. Now's the perfect time to get your very own set of these markers because they're now on sale. Use code GWEN0114 to get 15% off. Shop the link below between the 14th and 18th of January. And if you want even more hacks just like these, be sure to watch this video next. It includes a heat embossing technique that really confused me at first, but once I figured it out, it was a game changer. Be sure to watch it next, and I'll see you again really soon. Until then, bye!